I gotta ask. The Tupac's on the shirt. You mentioned Tupac a few times. Give the people a Tupac story.
Right behind me is where Tupac, Stretch, Supreme from the Supreme team, Chaz from Black Hand Entertainment, and some other guys sat down with me. I sat right there. I think that chair is still there. And we talked about the code to the streets.
Two kids from Queens, cut from a different cloth. Now joining forces, helping you to elevate your personal brand. Yeah, I'm talking about Nicky and Moose, bringing you a never-before-seen perspective into the mindset, the mentality, the behaviors, the driving force, but more importantly, the stories behind the people and brands that you know and love the most.
Yeah, let's talk about wealth building real quick, because you know, when we were working together last year, I think the one thing that was kind of most surprising, if I can be honest, was how you saw nonprofit as for profit in a sense. And not that you were in it for money, but you saw that money is just a resource. I know how to tap into it and utilize it to get people the help that they need, right? Talk about the mindset. Especially because I think a lot of people who want to do this work, they're like, oh, but where am I going to get money from? Money. And it's like, for you, that's not an issue, right? You've discovered ways to do the partnership, like you said, with the mayor's office. You have other people who are contributing. But I do believe that's more of a mindset than just a know-how, or at least it starts there. Talk about that a little bit, because you were like, I want to show people who are in this industry that it's possible to be a nonprofit and still live a good life. All right, talk about that for us a little bit.
And it goes back to what you said about my friends, right? And so if you have 5 friends that buy Starbucks every morning, every day, right? That's $5 per cup, right? That's 5 days a week or 7 days a week, right? They could donate 3 of those days to you. And it's about you selling your dream and having somebody believe in it just as much, or a fraction as much as you believe in it. And when people believe that you believe in your dream, and you really make them a part of your dream, they're gonna invest in it. And so we would be in the middle of the street with buckets or put buckets in the stores and so on and so forth. And people would fill the buckets because we were always visible and present, and young people sold the dream, right? Because it was their dream. And the businesses in the community, you exist in our community, you make money off of our community. It is imperative that you give back to your community. And of course, we can't like go around you give back, but consistency allows you to win people over to that idea. There's companies that give out money, right? And so you have to do the work. You can't be in every level of the job of whatever it is you're trying to do. You can't do it all. And I hear Nicky say that all the time, right? It's about your team, the people you build around you, right? Because if you got a powerful team, then you're able to go get money. Somebody else is doing the marketing and selling and the branding. And if your branding is where it is, then you could not do nothing, and people donate to you because you look like you do a whole lot, right? And so, and that's one of the things with society now. There's a lot of people who don't do no work. It's all they do is brand and marketing. And I see them, I know them, right? And I'm not gonna sit in here. And that's one thing also, right? I'm not the person that goes on anything and be like, this person, Like, the world, there's trillions of people in the world, right? Don't focus on 5. And especially don't focus on the 5 that don't like you, right? Go out into the world and meet people and allow them to believe and invest in what you believe in. And there's too many people. This guy told me today, these 20 people are giving you $100 a month. They could give you $1,000 a month. You have to convince them to give you the $1,000. And I looked at the list and I was like, I didn't even ask them to give me the 100. So now I'm going to go ask them to give me the 1,000. right? And so if somebody's watching this and I call you up and ask you for $1,000, yep, I was talking about you. No, but
No.
but you got to put in the work and you got to have a plan.
Yeah, you hear that? That's
love
too
it.
many bars. There's too many bars. I gotta ask. The Tupac's on the shirt. You mentioned Tupac a few times. Give the people a Tupac story. We gotta hear it.
So actually, right behind me is not a couch anymore, but right behind me is where Tupac, Stretch, Supreme from the Supreme team, Chaz from Black Hand Entertainment, and some other guys sat down with me. I sat right there. I think that chair is still there. And we talked about the code to the streets. We talked about, how do you help these young people who are caught up in street life transition out of the life, right? How do you let them see the business of the street life, right? Because there's lawyers, right? There's accountants, there's stylists, because everybody want to be sharp. There's marketing, because you got to come get your drugs instead of the other person, right? There's the event planner, because somebody's planning the social, because everybody's going out every night, right? Or somebody's planning your parties and stuff like that. And so we work to create a system around those people who have the highest potential to be at risk of being shot or shooting somebody. And that is where, when you talk about the first conversation of the New York City crisis management system came from. Right here in this living room, Tupac was sitting right where I'm sitting right now. It was a couch, though. And we planned this strategy. That was like 90 something. I know he came, we had him perform out here in 94. So it was sometime around there.
I had to ask, Moose.
Relationships.
Facts.
No, I love it. You mentioned obviously team, right? You mentioned the concept of a team, the importance of a team, and while that's the most taxing on you, right? You still have a phenomenal team. Last I remember, I think it was somewhere north of 30. I'm sure it's grown, since. But you also got people to buy into, like you said, a vision and a mission, where typically it's hard to recruit in that industry. Like, people know that they're going to work long hours. I mean, just before we started recording this podcast, you still had some of the team members at the house still doing work, right? Like, it's real. Like, we get to see it on a daily basis. But talk about one or two lessons that you would, or maybe pieces of advice that you would give to somebody when they're thinking about building their team and they're struggling to get people on board. Like, give advice to that person out there who might be having a challenge in that area.
So, got the pilot? No.
Talk about it. Talk about it. Flightassessment.com. Now,
So, I met you guys 2 years ago, and I was like, damn. Because what you were saying was so real, right? That and sometimes I have to catch myself, and what I'm talking about is the assessment, right? Is the understanding of who is your team, who are the people that you're building around you, and you cannot work with everybody like they're you. And so the sister was just here with everybody else. I think she was a C. What's all the way at the other end? C, right?
Yep. That's it right there. Yeah.
And I was all the way at the other end, a D.
Yeah.
And we constantly talking to her like she's a D, and she's talking to me like I'm a C, and she wants the details, and I'm like, let's go. And so we learned how to communicate more effectively with each other by taking a second to just realize who that person is, right? And how do they show up in the world? And so that you can communicate them based on who they are, not who you want them to be, and not who you think they are, but literally who they are and how they work and how they operate. Because you can keep doing it all you want your way. If it's not related to who they are, it's not going to work, And so that was one thing that helped in the team building. Yesterday, I'm part of this Elevate Prize thing, and they had Lee Cockle, the guy that used to be the CEO of Disney.
Yeah.
And the one thing that he said, which I hired a lot of times from my heart as opposed to from my, thinking process, my brain, and really who I need right time, the best employee. He said the reason why Disney is one of the number one companies, and I know you're gonna say y'all's are, but
Talk about it.
Is that they hire the right person. They hire the best person for the job, and they go through it. They really stickler about hiring the right person, and you gotta hire the right person. A lot of us who especially do this work, we feel sorry for somebody. We want to give you an opportunity. You want to help, but your life is going to be defined by who's around you, who's your engine in your car that's making you go down the road, right? Yeah. And so you're going to keep breaking down if you don't have the right parts in it. And that's the same thing with your team. You got to have the right people, and you got to use them right. You can't put the horn inside the gas tank. You got to put the pieces in the right places. And so I think those two things.
See, you certified out here in the streets, Erica. You flight assessment certified right there. I love it.
I need more lessons. We need to read. We need to read. Yo, E, what up, yo?
Hey, we coming back.